welcome to our meeting tonight. I'm sorry that you have to have me running it since our president is stuck in travel, coming across the country, actually coming across the world. Jen, if you would like to start with roll call.
I will. Stephanie Ahmad. Rich Carnation.
Here.
Bill Adams. Eric Heights.
Here.
Malinoli Lopez.
Here.
And Student Board Member Ava Hammelberg.
Here.
And Stephanie is in attendance listening, but she may not be able to speak because she's in an airport. So.
And by the way, if I'm not sure how Stephanie always did in the past, but I only can see about 16 squares. So if there's more people, so Jen or if other people see somebody that raises their hand or something and I don't see it, just let me know and that'd be great. We're going to go to the Flagsloot and Eric is going to, Eric's going to go ahead and do that.
Okay, yeah, let me scroll down here.
See.
Are we going to have a flag tonight, Jen?
You're muted.
All right, there we go. So please follow along with me during our flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay. 2.3, report out of session. Jeremy, do we have anything to report out?
No, we do not.
All right, thank you. 3.1, are there any adjustments to the agenda that we need to take care of? Anybody need something moved around?
No, but can we stop sharing the flag?
Jen is, I think she's
Trying,
working on it.
Yeah.
Jen, I don't think anybody can hear you. You're muted. She's going to run in there and tell Brad.
What happens is her mouse gets stuck and she can't click anything. It's frozen again. Yeah. Brad, can you unshare her screen? She'll go out.
I'm trying, but I don't know if I can unshare another person's screen. One moment.
Maybe if she goes out, it'll automatically. What happens, guys, for some reason, when she does this, her mouse freezes. And so it doesn't work anymore. And it's random.
That happens to me from time to time, and I change the battery in it, and then it usually seems to fix it. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's see. Can I do that?
We very quickly saw her little Scotty dog there, so something happened.
Well, while they're working on that, so we don't have anything to move. Like I was thinking about trying to have 5.3 and 6.1 and 5.4 and 6.2 work together, but there's a procedure for doing that, so we won't do that. And I'm not sure if we have anybody for public comment, but we'll have to wait a second here.
Just so you all know, I'm frozen now. Oh, there. All right, I'm back. Are we good now? Does it stop sharing or no?
No, it's still sharing.
It's still sharing, but I'm going to just start and stop a quick share and see if I can just steal it.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
It's better.
Are we still recording?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just have to say, Lois, it's great to see you. So, alrighty. So no adjustments to the agenda. 3. Are there any public comments?
You know, she's not on right now, but she said there were no public comments the last time I spoke to her. So,
Okay.
Or we can come back to it, but I don't believe there are.
Yeah, if anybody in the public, if there's someone has a comment and we can't see you, we'll bring that back up later if you call in or raise your hand. All right, so we'll go to 3.3, student report from student board member Ava.
Okay, since Jen can't share her screen, I'm going to try and we'll just see how this goes. This one. Okay, did that work?
We're seeing it.
Yes.
Okay, so we can all see?
Yes.
You're
Great.
good.
So this is my final student board member report. So as just an update from the committee at the end of the school year, we talked a lot about wanting to make sure there's an awareness to mental health and gaps in learning that a lot of students have experienced. So this is a lot the case of a lot of students had struggled with their mental health during distance learning and COVID, and that for a multitude of reasons that I'm sure we're all aware of, many students have found it hard to retain information, and that's caused a bit of insecurity and worries about going into next school year and trying to build on skills that they may not necessarily have mastered this year. And just wanted to mention that in-person grades have already been shown to improve. So a lot of students are very optimistic about things getting better next year as things go back to normal, but that they're still worried about how this past year will affect their future education. Again, we just kind of look back on the past year. A lot of people really enjoyed having that day off on Wednesday to kind of catch up, especially at the high school, where they were able to do their like A-day homework on the weekends and their B-day homework on Wednesdays. Not necessarily feasible to continue doing, but just want to mention that they really enjoyed that. And really the biggest thing is that everyone's very excited to come back in person and learn the way everyone's used to. Okay. Our last meeting with the committee was on May 26th. I know many people here on the Zoom were here for that. We kind of hit some key points, just again, reflecting on the past year. For classes, again, there's a big worry about the retention of knowledge and being able to move on past what they're supposed to have learned this year. A lot of students who are enrolled in extracurriculars mentioned that it really helped them stay grounded and help them feel connected to the school. Whereas many students who didn't necessarily engage in extracurriculars this year say that it's because they didn't feel like they could achieve that level of connection. But I would say, I think we came up with like 75% plan on joining an extracurricular once school is back in person. As for mental health, again, I'm bringing this up a lot because it is really a heavy hitter where there are most of the students I worked with, even the ones who maintained excellent grades, they definitely felt a detriment to their mental health, and that they wanted to make sure that going into next year, even as things start to feel normal, that it is not forgotten that there is an emotional toll that was taken on that necessarily won't be as easy to heal from, but that it'll take time. I know at the high school, there's a lot of like circles and things like that. And just to maintain that awareness that things have been difficult and that will have a lasting effect. The question was asked at the meeting, any positive takeaways? And a big one was the benefit of Google Classroom and having all assignments centralized. So especially talking to middle schoolers, many of them said that if they don't turn in an assignment or they forget to get something signed, it's because they forgot or they lost it. But having everything in Google Classroom, it's all in one place. You don't lose the assignment because it's digital, and you don't forget that you have something to do because there's a to-do list there. You get emails telling you when things are due. So a lot of students really appreciate having all their teachers using the same platform, having everything available that way. So to kind of finalize our discussions about the student board member appointment process, this is the now revised and the revised way that I'm now proposing, where at the end of the first semester, the applications will open, which will be the resume and the letter of interest. These applications will be due for the first week of the second semester, and the deciding panel made up of the 9 individuals with student majority will be made in February, where the new student board member will then be trained until their term starts on July 1st. The former student board member would then have the option to represent at the state level with the California Student Board Members Association to work on policy, curriculum, and more overreaching jurisdiction, I would say. So they would continue to have the title of the alternate student board member, but they would not report at meetings. It would more so be representing the district at the state level. This is just kind of a final thank you to all of the students who agreed and helped out with my committee this year. This is all of them. This is my 6th graders through 12th graders, including out of district students. They really took on an extra workload when many of them didn't even want to be doing the work that they had to do. And I really appreciate them doing that for me. I really couldn't have done my job well at all if it weren't for them. And they really just helped me get a perspective that I can't imagine not having in this job. So with this being my last meeting, I wanted to kind of review the work that's been done this past year, just because I know I talk about it every month, but I want to make sure I have one last time to go over it all. We worked with the Committee for Student Representation to make sure that all students in the district have a voice at the district level. I worked with the California Student Board Members Association to work on policy that I thought would benefit the students of Windsor. This included Senate Bill 14, which advocated for mental health awareness and excused absences, and Assembly Bill 824, which would allow for a student board member at the county level. And then I also worked as the region lead, which allowed me to work not only with Windsor students, but with students throughout Sonoma County, Napa County, Solano County, and Marin County to make sure that I'm looking at my situation and at the district situation from a broader perspective, and that I can take in other counties' situations, and even if they have different rules that are applying to them, we can kind of compare our situations and see how to best help the students. And then the most recent thing I'm working on that I'm very excited about having continue on to next year is working on a curriculum for the new student board member and the application process, just to make sure that when a new student board member does join and is appointed, that they know what they're doing, that they have all the resources necessary to really do their best in this role. And because I will no longer be the student board member as of July 1st, this is my new contact information if anyone feels the need or wants to reach out to me. And that's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ava. Very nice job. As usual, I put my little card to you. You keep raising that bar pretty high. But anybody else have any comments? Okay.
I'll go so I am literally on a flight about to take off, but I wanted to come because it's Ava's last meeting, and I just wanted to say thank you for all you did. I loved your report. I really appreciated the feedback that you collected from students. It was very illuminating about this past year, and I think it'll help us make a plan going forward to support students. And I just think you contributed so much to the process of and systems, and I think those things are so important. So I just want to thank you and look forward to all the things that you will keep doing as your career as a student and then a leader progresses. Thank you so much, Ava.
Thank you.
Ava, I'm not a board member, but as a superintendent, I think you've been exceptional. You're not the first student board member I've seen. You are definitely the best one I've seen. So done a great job.
Thanks.
I just want to say quickly, Ava, I knew you, before coming on the board, but I'm just so impressed with you, and you've been, such an inspiration. I think, just with your monthly reports and just how well composed you are, every single time we have a meeting. So thank you so much for, setting such a wonderful example. You're super inspirational. So thank you.
I'll take a turn also. We were going to wait and do a little special thing during the board president's report, but we'll do it now since your time was going. I hope you appreciated the little gift we sent across earlier, and it's from our hearts, and we care very much for you and wish you well. Yeah, you've got a fancy pen there and some flowers and a little note card from all of us. But we will definitely look for you to come in and join us now and then if you have student concerns. Don't be a stranger to us. We very much value and respect the work that you've done and the opinions that you share. And I know that you'll do a great job helping to promote the next student school board member, and to share your wisdom and the things you've learned over the years. It might be a little bit of a slight to say you're the best because I've liked all of them, but we do definitely know that you've raised the bar and have gone above and beyond what others have done before you. And so you've got some big shoes to fill, but I think that goes for everything in your life. You're always working hard and impressing us with your clubs and your schoolwork and your involvement in the community. So we'll see more of you. I'm not shy about that. So thanks again for the work you've done this last year.
And Ava, like Eric just said, we were going to say something in the section here down the road, but I'll just say it now. You got my vote. I know you're going to do something. I don't know what, but it'll be good. I just, yeah, you're going to do well. Anyhow, it's been great working with you this last year, and we'll see you some more. All righty. Thanks again. All righty. On to our next item, 3.4, new agenda item. Jeremy, is there anything new that we need to add on? Or anybody else know that we need to add anything else onto the agenda?
No, we would just move on to the staff association reports for 3.4.
Okay.
And it looks like we just have Brad. Pete did let me know that he may not be able to make it. He's traveling as well. So he said he may not be able to make it tonight.
Gotcha. Okay, Brad, do we have anything you'd like to share with us?
No, actually, we're working hard to prepare the schools for the fall, and the majority of us are off. So things are going well. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Brad. All righty. Is there any comments on 3.4? Anybody else got any comments? All right, we'll move to 3.5. Jeremy, a superintendent's report.
And I don't have a long report today. I do want to let everybody know, if people are watching, that tomorrow is now a holiday as of today. So we will not be having our offices open or summer school. So all of you who are watching our video right now, please recognize that our schools will not be open in any capacity tomorrow.
Is that it?
That's it for this report. Yeah, most of my report is
You
the
said
board
short,
meeting.
I didn't know it was that short.
Well, most of my report is really encompassed in the board meeting tonight. So we'll leave it at that.
All righty, so good at 3.5, 3.6. Ava, we were gonna have a whole tribute and this whole big parade and everything for you, but we just did it. So 3.6. Any other Eric or Melanoli or Stephanie, if you can still hear, anything else to report out? No? All right, I'm just going to throw one out there. I just want you guys to know that we talked about it, but he has officially arrived in Windsor, but a young man named Stephen Abbas, who was a three-time NCAA champion, three-time high school state champion, Olympic silver medalist, now is in Windsor, and he is for wrestling, of course. Anyhow, and he's here. Last night was his inaugural night working with the young kids here in Windsor, and it was pretty good, and it's only going to get better. And so a lot of good things are happening in our town. So just wanted to throw that out there. Right, let's go to 3.7, approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion from somebody to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of April 20th, 2021 and May 18th of 2021.
Thank you, Eric. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Melanoli. All righty. All those in, let's see, Stephanie, if you can hear us, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, Jen, so that'd be 4, 0, and 1 with Bill absent. All righty, 7, 4.1. Eric, if I can get you to go ahead and take 6th section for us.
Yes, I will. I'll take the consent action items that are in the 4 section of our agenda. So I will make a motion to approve items 4.1 through items 4.22, exclusive of item 4.13. Item 4.13 will be tabled for a future meeting. So items 4.1 through 4.22, with the exception of item 4.13.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
And there's a few that I
Yes,
would like.
are there any discussion points you'd like to discuss of items 4.1 through 4.22? Trustees or people in the meeting, please mention them now.
Actually, I've got a couple. Let's start with 4.3. Basically, my biggest concern is something I just want to watch. I want us to keep an eye on, and that is the fact that we're going to be using integrated math. And this is coming from a personal, this is just me personally. When I was younger in school, I struggled with algebra a lot, and geometry, not a problem. I got A's in geometry. And so, but the way we integrate things now, sometimes I don't know this, that's why I'm just bringing it up, that some kids aren't able to integrate things as well. And I want to make sure that this program is successful. So I don't know for sure if integrated math is the right math for this program. I just want us to keep an eye on it because I might not, if I was, which I really support this program, but as a young person, I might not have done well in this program because of the algebra component, but with the geometry component, I would have done really, really well. So I don't know if integrated math is the right program for this. And I would just like us to all be able to keep an eye on how our kids are doing and maybe think that in this program, we might want to do things a little bit more, a little things differently. Some people, I think they refer to it as learning mathematics in a cylinder type method or something else. I don't know what it all is. I just want us to be aware that maybe there might be a better way. And I just want us to keep an eye on it is pretty much what I just wanted to bring up with regard to that. Anybody else got anything on 4.3? Any comments?
Maybe either Lisa or Grace have a comment back about their opinions at the high school level of what math integrated to would look like and how that might work with build or not.
Sure. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Rich, for your conversation. So Danielle and I worked a lot together throughout the school year on this concept, and what Danielle did so masterfully was she created a crosswalk between the course proposal that I prepared using the IM2 standards and then the construction math standards. And so the crosswalk brings those two pieces together. So the standards that are going to be explored in construction math are similar and the same in IM2. Why do we do that? Because we want to make sure that this course is available to students who might want to go on to IM3. Now, having said that, part of the discussion that I understand is happening throughout the district is, you know, what will change in terms of possible changes. It turns to the math requirements for graduation. We originally were going to pilot, but we've decided that we would start with clustering students who are in the build core in this IM2 program so that those connections can be made through the CTE teacher for those construction purposes and application to the field itself. And we're going to monitor and watch them. Based on the bigger conversation and that will happen throughout the district regarding the math requirements for graduation, we might look at piloting the program using various materials that are outside of IM2. And Lisa's going to help guide us and be in that conversation. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry, Danielle, I didn't see you on the page here, but I would have asked you specifically because I know you've done a lot of work about this. But thank you, Grace. And I think maybe that'll help us keep a good eye on things for the future of that program.
No, that's good feedback. And yeah, Danielle, I didn't see you either, so I'm sorry about that. But
It's okay.
and that's all I was trying to bring up is I just want to make sure that y'all keep an eye on it, because I think that what you're doing, actually, I think if I had access to that, the actual application of things, I would have been able to put something to it better. And so it is just, and I know that other young boys seem to have the same struggle sometimes with what I have, that I've talked to kids over the years. So as long as we're keeping an eye on it and seeing whatever's best for the kids, that's awesome. And I know that's what you guys are trying to do. So that was it on that. If nobody else has any other comments on that one. I just want to.
Sorry. I just wanted to add, in addition to, what Grace had mentioned, is that we just want to be aware of all types of students that are potentially taking this course. And if our graduation requirements stand where Math 2 is a requirement, we want to make sure that we're addressing those students and we're giving them what they need to be successful in high school. And then also, if they want to consider continue on, to Math 3, to AP Stats, to AP Calculus, that we're supplying them with the standards that they need to be successful. So, that's why we really made sure that we included those standards in our course proposal, so that it was a course that students could continue on from. It wasn't an ending course, but it was something that they could keep going with.
And in addition to that, what we're finding is we're monitoring who is attracted to this core. And so in our intro to construction course, we had a wide gamut. We had AP students sign up to take the course. We had honor students sign up to take the course. And we had everybody who was an average student and some struggling students as well. So it'll be interesting to see which types of students are drawn to our academy as we continue to build in 11th and 12th grade. And I just want to say thank you all for your support of this program. We wouldn't have gotten as far as we have without the support from the school board, the district office, as well as our community partners.
Very good. Thank you all. 4.4, I just want to, I love the idea. I know if this book is anything like Cubby's previous book, it was really, really good. And I'm glad to see that we're introducing that to our students. And then actually on 4. Hold on a second here. 4.16. I'm a little torn on this one because a year ago, I kind of told everybody that I wasn't going to be voting for any more budgets or anything if they didn't fix what I think is a really big inequity in the coaches' stipends that haven't changed in 25 years. And so, and so I said that. Yet we had a whole lot of things happen this last year with the pandemic. We have a new superintendent. We had a whole lot of changes. And so basically what I want to say is I've seen a lot of effort to make some changes in the areas that we need to make. We haven't gone over the goalpost, or over the goal line yet, so to speak, but we've made a lot of progress. We've worked on things in that general area with the athletic director, so that way that position is not being overworked. It's a tough job already without being taken care of. And so we've made some strides in that area. And so I just would like to say that I'm very hopeful that in this next year, that if we continue to make the progress that we're making in all different areas, and that we continue to look at this area as well, I have a lot of confidence that that things will be better. Again, none of us were planning on this last year being the way it has. And so I'm going to give us all a little bit of a break. But I just want to remind everybody that's listening that that it still is something that we need to continue to focus on and work on and try and fix. So anybody else has got some comments? That'd be
Well,
great.
I can acknowledge that I have done an analysis of our stipends as well as athletic director stipend, and we are low. We're lower than many of the surrounding districts. I think that we'll continue to discuss it. We kind of ran out of time this year with negotiations due to COVID and just kind of the nature of how this year went, but it will be a topic of discussion next year.
Very good. I think Eric had a hand or somebody.
I don't know if you're finished. I was going to mention one more thing about our consent action items, and that's item 4.21. I'd like to personally thank, on behalf of the board, Kim Simpkins for the donation of the $100 gift basket or $100 valued gift basket, and to let others in the community know that when things are donated, we do recognize you in our consent action agenda, and we definitely do appreciate our community partners who like to support our schools and donate to the students' causes. And we hope that we can get more of those in the future.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I had that too. I do have one last one. I forgot. I didn't bring this up. It's kind of a funny, not funny. It's kind of an awkward thing for me to bring up. But in section 4.20, we talk about the consideration and approval of annual signature authorizations. I know you, Jeremy, as our superintendent, and I feel 100% confident in your ability to sign things, and I sign things. And Lois, I'll deny it if you ever tell anybody I said it, but I had confidence in you and your ability to look at things and sign them too. But I don't know who our new CBO is going to be. And I was just wondering if on the one thing where the CBO has authorization to sign real property matters, if we want to leave that there, is that something standard for CBOs? Or is that something that we would want to not have in there? And that would be something that only the superintendent signed for CBO, I mean, for property matters. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I see it. I mean, normally a CBO does have access to these signatures. It's not just Lois. It would be even if it wasn't Lois. But Lois, do you want to chime in here?
You know, I never even gave thought to that real property matters. I don't know what that would be, because anything of any substance would have to go to the board first.
Yeah.
You know, we have the policy of $15,000 contracts. So that section is mainly to keep things moving in the business office, the day-to-day stuff that happens. It's not going to cover anything of any great dollar amount.
Okay, I mean that's good information, because it doesn't say that, but I didn't know how that actually worked. And again, you've been with the district for a long time, and we all have our confidence in you. And so, and I'm hoping that the new CBO will develop that same level of confidence as well. But I was just thinking, like, do we want to let a new person that we don't really have a lot of confidence? Let me rephrase that. New person with a lot of experience that we've had dealing with them, dealing with the real property matters that sometimes you can't reverse. But if it's limited to $15,000, doesn't sound like there's a lot of exposure potentially if something was done incorrect.
I can't even imagine what that real part, I mean, I don't know of anything. I mean, signing off on the state report that talks about unused property sites, but that, you know, I've never done anything having to do with real estate as CBO for Windsor.
Yeah, see, I wasn't sure. That's why I kind of wanted to bring it up and talk about it, because I didn't know how this, you know, I didn't know what that actually meant, because it just says real property matters. And real estate.
I mean,
No, it's
Rich,
a
I
good
think
question.
if you would prefer that we removed it, I think that it's probably not something that's going to affect how we do business.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if it's substantive enough to need to remove it, because that all runs through me anyway. But
no, Lois answered my question when she said it really is a limit of 15,000.
yeah,
That was it. I was thinking more in terms of that the CBO would have an ability to, you know, purchase land, this, that, and different things. You know, when you come to real property matters, I don't know what that all encompasses. If, you know, real property matters up to $15,000, that's something that is very much in line with whatever.
Yep.
So I don't really have a question about it anymore at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on items 4.1 through 4.22, exclusive of item 4.13 that has been tabled to a future meeting. Are there any public comments on these items or other items that would like to be discussed by the people in our meeting? Okay, not hearing or seeing anybody.
Sorry, Eric, I have not had any public comment.
Thank you, Jen. So at this time, we need to take a vote. So all those trustees in favor of approving the consent action items, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we pass with a 302 mark of delineation on those items. And we're ready to move on to item 5. I'll hand it back to Rich.
Great. Thank you, Eric. 5.1.
Let me interject on 5.1, Rich. So she's going to actually come on the 29th to that meeting. She let us know she could not attend tonight. And so we're going to need to table 5.1 to the 29th.
Gotcha. So all righty. Was there anybody that had any public comment about this, or we would just table it and just move on?
No, we'll let you know. If there's public comment, we'll let you know.
Okay, great. We'll just go move to 5.2, annual update of the Windsor Unified School District English Learner Advisory Committee. This is Allison Griggs. Where's Allison? There she is.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm going to go ahead and try to screen share if I have the option. Looks like it. Okay, can we see that okay?
Yes.
Right. So I'm presenting tonight on our annual update for our English learners, our District English Learner Advisory Committee parent meetings, and also our English learner program supports for all students. So we'll start with parent education and parent meeting opportunities. We hold a number of meeting opportunities throughout the school year. ELACs, English Learner Advisory Committee meetings, are held at every site, and those are throughout the school year. And then we also have DLACs. That's going to be District English Learner Advisory Committee meetings for all students, all parents of all students from every school site. And so you can see here listed, we had 2 meetings for the entire district. To start the school year, we had to talk about our learning continuity plan with the changes with COVID and distance learning. And then there's also some logistics that we always start with and get parent interest surveys so that we're focusing on topics parents are interested in discussing. And then we also had a meeting to talk about graduation requirements, career technical education, college and career readiness for all students, and really focusing that energy on all schools for all students and not just at the secondary level. And then those ELACs I mentioned are going to be site specific. And so that's really the principal's opportunity to talk about the school plan for student achievement and any specifics to their site, especially with distance learning and anything that might impact their students at their school the most. And then in addition to that, we also had a partnership with Sonoma State University. Our board trustee, Malinali Lopez, was kind enough to set us up with that connection. And we were able to talk about post-secondary opportunities for students for students and parents to learn more about what Sonoma State could offer them. And then lastly, we always ask for our parents of English learners to provide us stakeholder input and engagement on LCAP and LCAP prioritization for the following school year. So if there's no questions about that, we're going to go on and talk about our services for our multilingual students. Our multilingual students, just as a quick side note, I'm going to refer to our students that you typically hear referred to as English learners as multilingual students. This is just more asset-focused terminology to address that our students that are learning another language are going to be bilingual and even multilingual, as opposed to that heavy emphasis on just learning English. And so whenever you see any data collection, you will see EL or English learner but I think really trying to change that language around multilingual learners is going to be a focus for all of our EL programs or multilingual programs in the district. So as we provide supports to students, those can be provided through designated instruction and also integrated instruction. Designated is going to be just that. It's a designated time that's protected, that students are focusing on language development. Integrated is provided by all teachers throughout the school day in the area, the content area that the student may be getting a lesson in. Our distance learning followed a lot of the same scope and sequence that we have every year, but we did have to make some modifications, of course, as everyone did with Google Classroom, and then fitting in scheduling. We had a few assignments a week, and students did participate in both synchronous and asynchronous instruction. For the most part, that continued from last spring into the fall, but we were able to work with our EL coordinators to make sure that we were providing as much language support as possible for our students, and a lot of that engagement and check-in time, especially talk time opportunities for students to communicate. Many of our English learners did return to school in April, but we did have a handful that were not able to due to transportation or parents wanting students to stay home due to COVID. We measure our students' growth in a number of ways, but for our multilingual students, annually, if they still qualify to have the language services and supports, we measure that with a summative assessment, which we are just now wrapping up at the end of the school year. A few students are even still taking it as we move on into summer. That window was extended this year. But all students participate in that assessment based on their home language survey that is filled out at the very beginning of their education when they first enroll in school. And so that would mean that the student is tested with an initial assessment once in their educational career, and then every year after that, until the student reclassifies as no longer needing language support, they take part in that summative annual assessment. We've had a lot of transitions with this test over the past few years. The summative assessment is all on the computer now. Thank goodness, we needed that with doing so much remote testing and remote instruction. Almost all of our students did participate. And as I mentioned, they extended the testing window, so we can still wrap up a few tests, which we have one test coordinator doing in the district right now. The transitions over the past few years went from paper pencil to being all completely on the computer, and now we have remote options for testing as well. And then there will also be another transition coming next year, which will be the addition of the LPAC alternative. And so that alternate LPAC is going to be for students that also have special education services that may need a modified test. We look at measuring student growth in another way, in addition to the state's assessment. We look at our multilingual learners' progress on benchmark assessments. And this year, we used the same assessments we've used in the past, but did make some accommodations for distance learning. So with distance learning, there may be certain parts of the assignments that students were able to do more readily or had more challenges with because of doing remote learning. And so we did try to accommodate the test for that. So if there was an area we felt like we really didn't get to this year, then we looked at not testing the student on something that they weren't taught. And so we use this benchmark data for our own progress monitoring, but then also to look at reclassifying students when they score high enough on the LPAC, and trying to find areas that students may need more support with, because then we can get more data back than just relying on the LPAC assessment. The teachers have had a huge hand in this. And so all of the assessments that we do are were constructed by teachers in the past few years, and they work with us to make any adjustments that we need to. And we also used the California Department of Education EL roadmap and the ELD standards so that everything clearly aligns. So this is our benchmark data based on this school year. I do want to say, when we're looking at any of our data this year, it has been challenging to know how much is valid or an accurate representation of how our students are performing. Our EL coordinators and EL teachers both felt that this wasn't necessarily a great picture across the board at all sites. And you can see that there's a lot of discrepancy between the different sites. And so those scores, we typically at the elementary level administer those tests 3 times a year, and at the secondary level, twice a year, just the semester. And we look for students that are scoring 80% or higher. Those are typically our students that are looking at reclassification. And then of course, we also look at that data to find areas that we need to focus more instruction on. And so this year we had 33.2% of students scoring 80% or higher. And then you can also see that information divided out by school site. And as I mentioned, there's, some glaring discrepancies between the sites there. And I do think that that's important for us to look at, and we'll be having follow-up conversations with EL coordinators and EL teachers to try to improve that. But it also does feel like this year, it's kind of hard to know if that data is an accurate representation of how our students are progressing. And then if you see on the right there, next to each, you can see the number in parentheses is what we scored at last year. So with all this data, looking at our students that are scoring, how they're scoring on the LPAC, and looking at how students are scoring on our benchmark assessments, we then begin to form more of a picture for what we think our reclassification will look like for future years. We're going to be looking at what that's looked like so far. This year, we only were able to reclassify 4% of our total multilingual students in the district. That is incredibly low, but that's the case for everyone right now with remote learning and shelter in place. No one's reclassifying a large number of students right now. Actually, you'll see the red asterisk next to the number of students that reclassified at Windsor Middle and Windsor High School. And that is just to note that those aren't actually what we would typically consider reclassifying the traditional way. Many of those students reclassified because they were exited through their IEP. So that would be for students with disabilities that have an IEP that were no longer benefiting from the program. We look at the correlation between their area of learning need and their abilities in language to see if the placement is going to be appropriate for them. So when you have students that get to the middle school and high school level, they're then long-term English learners. And we try to differentiate between, does the student need more language support or more learning support? And so those students that we exit through their IEP are typically going to need more learning support.
If I could interrupt for a second, Allison, this is Eric. So does that mean that it may be a potential difficulty next year with the number of students who may be in classes continuing, and we may need to have extra teachers or extra spaces available for those kids since so few of them have moved on from their EL status?
Potentially. Right now, looking at our numbers based on our projections, of course, we'll see if we usually have a few students, join over summer as well, but we were looking at being able to reduce teachers at sites because we have fewer students that require ELD services than we had in the past. So I'm curious to see if that kind of works itself out. But looking at our numbers right now, I think we'll need one more section at the middle school as of right now. And that's the only place we're looking at having to add a section based on numbers now. So we use all of this data and look at reclassifying our students so that they no longer need language support. And that's the number that you see represented here. So this is the number of English learner students, multilingual students that reclassify each year. And we do still track. We still do data monitoring and progress tracking for 4 years after a student is reclassified. But these are students that are able to participate in all their classrooms and all their educational settings without needing additional language support. And so you can see here that this data is tracked annually, but this is through CalPads, and it's always certified and the following year. So all of this data that's certified, really when you're looking at 1920 data, that's based on the results we got from 1819. So you're always looking at data that's a year old. So the numbers that you saw reflected on that last screen aren't on here yet. That will be updated this coming year. You can see that based on this information, we did exceed the state and county. We're reclassifying 12.5% of our English learners based on last year's data. And this year, again, won't certify until next year. And so we will likely see a dip there. Well, we know we'll see a dip there, but as should the state, the county, and everybody. And then again, that little red asterisk is just marking that some of those reclassifications were students that were exited through their IEP. So that's all the information I have for you guys tonight, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that I really love this presentation. And what I love especially is in calling these students multilingual learners, because I think that, you know, speaking more than one language is actually a superpower. You know, just because when you speak multiple languages, you know, it maps out more parts of your brain that you're actually using. So I just love this concept, and I hope that we can continue to empower our students.
Thank you, Malinali. I absolutely agree. Thanks for saying that.
And what Malinali mentioned kind of spurred something else in me, a question. Do we get support from the county, or do we have some internal support potentially for students who are not Spanish speaking as a native language? If somebody's Eritrean, or if somebody's speaking Farsi or Chinese or some other language that we don't traditionally teach here in Windsor, how do we manage those students? Do we have some expertise there?
We've contracted with outside consultants for that. I'm not sure about contacts with the county. I have people at SCO that I've reached out to say, hey, do you have anyone that you know of for this? But for the most part, we have worked with outside consultant companies that we found. So we pay for that separately.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from anybody else? Any public comment? Okay. Allison, again, thank you. Mallory, I think, said it well, and your reports are very good and always very enlightening. So thank you. Appreciate it. All righty, we're going to move on to item 5.3, a notice of public hearing for review of the 2021 to 2024 local control accountability plan, the LCAP. And this is going to be for our good friend, Lisa.
Thanks, Rich. So we have a notice of public hearing right now, and then we're going to have a public hearing when we get to discussion action. So I have overall, as you know, it's LCAP time again, and we did not have an LCAP for the 2021 school year. We had an LCAP in 1920 that we have done an annual update for, and we had a learning continuity and attendance plan that you may recall way back in August, September that you all approved, that we wrote for the interim for the 2021 school year to get us through while we did not have LCAP in place. So now we have processed over the course of the year, synthesized the data from 1920 and from the 2021 learning continuity and attendance plan, and written an LCAP in the new template for the 21-22 school year through the 23-24 school year that encompasses all data that is necessary as part of the LCAP process, as well as represents board goals and stakeholder engagement and input and feedback given our process. So I have a PowerPoint that hits the highlights, and I can either do it now or we can move on and I can do it during 6.1. What's your pleasure?
I would recommend doing it now, then people that are watching would have time to chime in later, potentially during the public hearing, because there is a delay on the recording and on YouTube. So that's my prerogative.
All right.
I would agree.
All right, so do you see something that says Windsor Unified, June 17th, local control, accountability? Okay, good, we're in the right place. All right, here we go. So again, these are the highlights, and I'm going to hit our successes and our identified needs based on all of the process work that I just described a minute ago. All right, so current successes, we will continue to emphasize, particularly in relation to Ava's report earlier this evening around the social emotional learning and well-being of our students. Next year in particular will continue to be a recovery year for us, post fires, pandemic, you name it, we've had it. So kids, we anticipate that kids will need a lot of continuing support. Our graduation rate continues to hang in there, higher than the state. Our Spanish-speaking parents continue to communicate to us that they agree that there's somebody in the office that can translate for them and can speak to them in their home language. We are improving, but still need to continue to work on student perception around adult caring behavior. Students also reported, particularly this year, we had an increase of 6% over last year, that teachers and adults are working hard to help them with their schoolwork when they need it. Allison just talked to you about the English learner reclassification rate. Again, when we're talking data, currently we continue to still use the term English learner. We're hoping that we'll over time transition to multilingual learner, even when we're talking about data. Our AP exam rate is great when students take the exam. What we need to improve on is kids actually taking the exam. So kids who do score well, but more kids should be taking it. So more on that. Excuse me. And then we did, this is a little bit blast from the past, but just as a reminder, on the 2019 dashboard, our district was qualified for differentiated assistance through the county office in 3 of our subgroups, those being students with disabilities, English learners, and Hispanic Latinx students. All 3 of those subgroups in the 2019 dashboard exited differentiated assistance qualification, which means that they improved in academic achievement, reduced suspension rates, and outcomes in enrollment in a broad course of study. Eric, did you have a question?
I just kind of wanted to back up to item 7 about the AP exams. I know this past year was, chaos, and AP exams didn't really happen in person, and all the different things that could have happened were weird. Does Windsor plan to, and are we continuing to host those AP exams at our site? Or do students sometimes need to go to other schools and it makes it difficult for them to travel and take the test other places?
When and where possible, we will continue to try to host.
Because I know it made a difference for my daughter and some of her friends. They didn't have to go to Sonoma State or Santa Rosa High School or Petaluma or somewhere that had the test. They could do it in their own classroom or in their own school where they were comfortable. So I recommend as much as we can to try to make that happen.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to needs. Thanks, Eric. So on the good side, 3 subgroups exited differentiated assistance. On the not so good side, homeless students came into differentiated assistance in the areas of academic achievement and chronic absenteeism. So that's a subgroup that is now squarely on our radar that we're monitoring carefully. Again, the dashboard, as I think you recall, has not been in place for a bit because of COVID. And so it's going to take a while to get back into cycle with all of the areas that typically have been externally measured via the California dashboard. So we will, as I said before, continue to focus upon social emotional well-being of our students. We will continue parent education and focus upon the college career indicator, particularly for the 5 subgroups you see listed below. We'll continue to try to increase our SBAC scores in English language arts and math, in particular with the 4 subgroups that you see. I included English learners, Hispanic Latinx students, and students with disabilities, even though they exited, because just because you exit doesn't mean check, okay, then we don't have to continue to monitor and pay close attention to those subgroups. They still need to be front burner and on our radar. As Allison mentioned earlier, we'll continue to focus upon increasing EL progress and our RFEP rates. Again, emphasis on students with disabilities overall in the areas where they have seen areas of struggle. The asterisks that you see, I forgot to mention that earlier. So for example, next to numbers 6, 7, and 8 directly relate back to board goals that were identified in the fall of this school year. So I just wanted to make that connection for you. So a continued focus upon, for number 6, the adult-student relationships that I mentioned earlier, and ensuring again that all students feel a strong connection to the school that they attend. A specific focus overall on SBAC, but more specifically about 3rd graders meeting or exceeding the ELA standards on SBAC, and a specific focus on integrated Math 1 students scoring proficient on the 1st semester benchmark assessment. We have a report that shows some trend data around integrated Math 1, and that report will come to you on the 29th of our meeting.
Based on that, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead, no, you're fine.
Based on one of those last numbers there, I want to commend the district and the leadership for continuing to push a little bit on the iReady, making sure students are taking some standardized type tests. As controversial as it was for parents and everybody to say, why are we testing these kids? They've been through so much this year. Even though the state waived those tests, they won't waive them forever. We'll be expected to take them in the future. And our kids that have taken some similar tests will be familiar with the keystrokes, will be familiar with the way test questions are written. And I think we'll do better on that than some other schools that just said, oh, we're going to throw away any testing this year because the state said we don't have to. So for those of you out there that thought testing was a little out of control this year, it'll pay off in the future, in my opinion.
Thanks, Eric. So moving on with identified needs, number 9. We'll work on developing and implementing an equity-focused, comprehensive, multi-tiered, tiered, sorry about that, I was tired when I wrote it, system of support in all of our schools across the district. We will work on increasing our percentage of staff and parents who report that the school is providing a safe and positive learning environment. That dipped just this year. Could be COVID related, not really sure. So we'll monitor that data carefully and also put in some actions into our LCAP that will address that specifically. Number 11, we will be working on better, improved, and consistent communication to all of our community via our social media presence and our online presence in general. And we will also continue to focus on increasing school attendance and achievement through effective engagement and motivation strategies. So just as a reminder, in the 2019-20 school year, when we went through the entire stakeholder engagement process and all of the data unloading and stakeholder engagement, excuse me, these were the top 6 priorities that were identified by all stakeholders. So starting with math instruction, social emotional learning, reading instruction, caring and trusted adults at school, English learner support, and college career preparation. Fast forward 2 years really to what we're going to focus on next year. And we still see safe and positive learning environments, still see social emotional support, academic interventions, especially in math, student motivation and engagement, the relationship piece that you saw earlier, and then a focus as well on chronic absenteeism. I think the chronic absenteeism piece specifically relates to the ways in which we measured and monitored student attendance and engagement during distance learning, and just feeling still really nervous about wanting to make sure that we get all of our students back in the fall and make sure that they are attending regularly. And that's that presentation. Any questions I can answer?
I do have a question, Lisa.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could explain number 9 in, I think, the second to the last slide, about what does it mean to have an equity-focused, multi-tiered environment that promotes, I think you said, safe and positive learning.
Yes, I can attempt to do that, and you can let me know if I don't give you enough information or if you need more. So equity-focused and comprehensive multi-tiered system of support boils down to, we want all students in our district to be included and to be able to get their needs met, whatever that may end up being. So whatever kids need is what they get versus everybody getting the same thing, which is more equality versus equity. So all students getting what they need when they need it in order to progress successfully through our school district. The multi-tiered systems of support comes under 3 prongs. And so we want to be able to have levels of support for students in the academic realm, in the emotional well-being realm, and in the behavioral realm, so that at any given time and in any given grade level across the district, be it in the general ed setting, that there are strategies that all teachers have to assist students at that level. And then what we call, that's a tier 1 support. And then in tiers 2 and 3, it gets a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more concentrated about the ways in which we help students who aren't meeting their goals and aren't progressing based on tier 1 supports. So that's what we're after, to make a comprehensive system in our district. So really creating systems.
Okay, that's great. And I was wondering if you had some sort of tool of how you were going to gauge what students need, because I would imagine that there would be a big diversity of needs.
Yes. So the metrics that we have identified in our LCAP, some are required through EdCode and through the LCAP process that are the success indicators, if you will, to determine what students need. And some are locally identified by our stakeholders via mostly the survey results in identifying areas of weakness and areas of needing strength. So a good example that I can share with you, Malinali, is the need for students to have trusting and caring relationships with adults on campuses so that they feel a positive connection to school. So we measure that based on student, staff, and parent perception around that survey question prompt every year, and then implement actions accordingly, and then watch to see how the next year's survey results come out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions, comments? I don't see any. Thank you, Lisa. Jeremy, Lisa, do we have to do anything at this point other than just receive the information?
Just receive the information. When we get to the item in area 6, agenda item 6, Rich, you're going to open a public hearing, keep it open for a minute and close it, but we'll get there when we get to 6.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
righty. That will move on to, let's see, that was 5.3. We'll move on to 5.4. Notice of public hearing for review of the 21-22 budget and the reserve transparency disclosure for Windsor Unified School District. And so this is going to be presented by our friend Lois.
Hello, nice to be here and to see all of you. So I also have a short PowerPoint to help summarize the budget information that you received as attachments to the agenda. If there's no changes, I'll be bringing it back with the only adjustment next week being once the LCAP is approved or okayed this week, I should say, without any substantive changes, we will go ahead and budget all of the specific actions and services from the LCAP into the budget, but it won't change anything. We have the total dollars budgeted right now. It's just going to put them in the specific budget lines to make sure we can start the year, or you can start the year with an accurate budget, especially where positions are concerned. It's good to have the budget in place for people. So I will also share my screen. And start off by saying that a budget is, only as good as the assumptions that are used to create it. And it's probably only good for about a day, and then things change. So that's really important to think about, that this budget is what it is right now. I already told you a couple of changes we'll be doing for it, and then it will continue to change throughout the year. There'll be a change probably at the 45-day revise. Once the budget is signed off, the state budget signed off by the governor, then there could very well be some assumptions that were not what were used to create this budget. And you'll have to have a 45-day revise to see the impacts of that. Then the school year starts and we find out what actual enrollment is, and what carryovers from the budget are after closing the books, what the real beginning balance is. And so first interim is a real good true up of the budget. And then, of course, as the year continues, and that takes you into the second interim all the way into March, then you have a really good idea of what's being spent for the year. So with each financial report, it gets a little bit more precise, and until, of course, you get to the unaudited actuals, which in September of this year, you'll see those for 2021. So that's just a little bit of clarity on what a school budget is. And some of the changes that are in our assumptions for the 21-22 budget are, we have what's being called the super COLA of 5.07%. That's higher than we've seen in quite a while. It's a combination of this year's statutory COLA added to last year's statutory COLA, which was not applied to school funding. And then just because they have so much funding at the state, they added 1%. So it's a 5.07, and that very nicely is ongoing. That actually is not one-time money. That is added to the LCFF funding base and will continue on in future years. Of course, we have continued increases in STRS, PERS, and health benefits, the same old story about that. Although the legislature at this point, and I haven't seen the news today or yesterday, they were pushing to have, the governor had a whole list in the May revise of programs he wanted to see go into schools, most of them being one-time funding, specialized grants. The legislature has moved away from that technique or strategy and is looking to use quite a bit of money to relieve the cost of STRS. So that would be what, in my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds, what would be better for schools to help serve students in the ways they choose and think is necessary in their district, instead of just by the programs the governor is offering. So it could be as much as, I think, 1 to 2% for 2 to 3 years. So that's substantial. Our supplemental funding amount, 3.3 million. And everyone seems to be in agreement at the state level to remove all cash deferrals except next June. Cash deferrals are one of the techniques that the governor and the legislature put into place to keep from having us have that huge 10% reduction last year. They said, okay, you're entitled to that much money. We're just not going to give you the cash. So for this last spring, they've been deferring our payments, not all of them, but certain percentages, the majority of them from February through June. And that was to go on next year also, but now there seems to be enough funding that that won't be necessary except for 1 month. The governor wants to implement a universal transitional kindergarten, rolling it in over 4 years, and the legislature seems to be behind that. There's, of course, additional COVID relief funding. I have a slide that gives a brief summary of those dollars. And then this budget shows a decrease of 6 teaching positions across the district, reflecting decreasing enrollment and staffing. Okay, any questions on that slide? So as you've learned from my presentations, I like to pull out the unrestricted from the restricted funding, with the restricted funding being all of the federal grants, all of that COVID funding, specialized California Partnership Academies at the high school, all that money that has a specific purpose and is self-limiting by the fact that they can't overspend their budget. Now, the notorious restricted funding that does overspend its budget because it's underfunded is, of course, special education. But the impact of that on the general fund is reflected in our contributions. So that works out, and we get to see that the impact on the general fund. So the unrestricted is really where you see the health of a district. So this is at a very high level. It's this is actually a multi-year. I'm sorry. I thought there was another slide in here. Let me just make sure I didn't miss one. Nope. Okay. I apologize. I'm already getting my districts confused. Okay, multi-year projection for Windsor. So as you can see, the revenues take quite a dive between 21-22, which is next year. That shows us at 31 million in our unrestricted. It goes down to 29,597 in 22-23. And the main reason for that is through 21-22, we're protected by the held harmless rule that the state put in during COVID to protect schools from the dip in enrollment. And for 21-22, because we get to use the higher of either the present year or the past year, we get to go back actually, because the year before was held harmless, we get to still use the held harmless as the past year this year. So we're bypassing 2 years of reductions, but that catches up with us in 22-23, showing that decrease in revenue. And then it's a little less, although we still are projecting a decrease in 23-24, it's not as great because it's more our typical decline. Now, this is with the information we know now. I know the district is putting into place some actions that hopefully are going to increase that enrollment, and then these numbers will change. So that, again, is an indication of this is for right now, but as we learn more, we change it.
Lois, what was the ADA in 21-22 built on, and then what's 22-23?
Hold on, let me get those numbers.
That's exactly
Okay.
what I was wondering.
So, oh, that's the enrollment, not ADA. Here it is. 21-22 ADA is 3522.54, and 22-23 is 322779, and that's out of the LCFF calculator after we put all our numbers in.
Okay.
So Lois, is that, if I'm reading, that's about a 300 student reduction?
Yes, at this point. Now, as I said earlier, it could go up if for some reason there was some giant influx of students in enrollment this year, and this year happened to be higher than the year before, then we would take the higher this year.
So this is that 300 number that's over basically a 3-year period, huh?
2 years. 2 years of
period?
drops. We've had protection for 2 years.
Got it. Okay. So, about 150 students a year.
which has been our normal. That's a high one, but that's the
That's
max that we ever project losing. And it's not even that fewer kids now are coming. Now what we're seeing that's really is that those few kids that came way back, I mean, the number's staying fairly constant, and then it's moving up. So, you know, the bigger classes are graduating out of the elementaries, and then it's all small classes. We're losing our few big classes that had been there. I think we have, as we've always seen, have the ability to have higher enrollment in high school and or the middle school, but it's the elementary where we're really seeing some of the downsliding.
Thank you.
Okay, so the excess deficiency, this is where we look for deficit spending, and the 21-22, we're spot on deficit spending by $3,000, which is right here. That's not a problem. That I wouldn't even call deficit spending. But then because of what we just discussed, of that cliff of ADA and expenditures having their normal increase, you know, that's what, a $500,000 increase in expenses, mostly STRS, PERS, health benefits, step and column. We're ending up with a $2.5 million deficit in 22-23, and then a similar decline in 23-24. Now, because we've been frugal and holding on to things and saving money during COVID, that was a big part of it. We have a healthy fund balance in unrestricted, so it is able to sustain this. You can see we're starting with the beginning fund balance of the 10.7, and these deficits take it to an ending fund balance, which is 4.7, which is well over the official minimum. I won't say it's well over the suggested minimum, but it's still above the minimum reserves. So I think that's all I want to say on this slide, unless there's any questions.
So with that, Lois, if we are looking, we either need to get our numbers up, or we're going to have to, what are our options if we don't get our numbers up?
I mean, the one thing, well, I mean, we're talking deficits. So it's the fairly simple, you reduce expenses or increase revenues. And I know Mr. Decker's preference is to increase revenues, which is a great choice that you know, keeps programs in place and grows the district.
And I can speak to that real quickly. So I think, I mean, my vision for this is we're probably going to have to take some chances. Otherwise, we're going to be cutting. I think we've made the cuts, frankly, that are not to many of our programs. And if we continue to simply cut our way to a budget, we're going to be losing programs within our district, which we've tried really hard to protect. So my vision for this is it's a little risky, because I think I'd like to grow some different programs or different schools that might attract students to our district, but there's a chance that they won't. And so we would have to do some capital outlay to potentially grow these programs. There's some positions on the agenda later on that we are investing in the hopes that we can create some programs to attract families. But it's about $250,000 budgeted here. That is a $250,000 chance that these won't grow our district. So I think we're very lucky that Windsor, the trustees, Lois, everybody who's been here has built our general fund to a point that we can take a couple of some chances for a couple of years. But guys, this isn't ideal. I mean, it's never ideal to be in a declining enrollment district. And as Lois so eloquently put it, you either cut or generate revenue. So I think that we've got to try. I mean, I hope that you'll support the concept of generating revenue and having some outlay right now that might benefit us in 2 to 3 years.
Nope.
Okay. All right. So then we look at the same format for restricted. if you remember, these are the things that have a budget, a self-limiting budget, all except special ed. And we have some high numbers in the beginning because of the COVID relief money, but that all gets spent down, and you can see that over time in a model of a multi-year, you make the assumption that you're spending down all the money that you're receiving. In reality, that usually doesn't happen, but you make that assumption as you do a multi-year, and it takes us down to almost a nil fund balance because we're saying everything's being spent. So, and this is the extra stuff. It's very important to the running of the school. It's very important to our students, but it's not as important to the fiscal health of the district.
And what's tricky is we get, these are those one-time funds, right, Lois, that we get?
Yes, a
It's
lot
so
of them. There's
tempting,
also Title I, Title II, all those in here.
but it's so tempting to use these funds on staff, but this is where a district can get themselves in trouble if we take one-time funds and spend them on ongoing positions or ongoing, whatever is ongoing. It's rough. So from the outside says, you just got $3 million. Why can't you do X, Y, and Z? Well, what's hard as a district is we can't contribute those dollars to things that eat forever. And so it puts us in a really rough spot. It's why we hate those one-time dollars that our governors, since I've been back in California, love to give. They love to give one-time dollars because it doesn't put them at risk either. So it's just tough.
And that's why we were so happy to see the 5.07 COLA, because that's real. That will stay in the LCFF money all along. Okay, I wanted to give you a little summary. It's fairly amazing how much money has come into this district based on COVID relief. Now there's all kinds of names attached to it. There are some special uses. I won't get into those at this point. I don't think that's what the discussion here is about, but I just wanted to show you the breadth of the money. So what is that? 5, 7, 8, $10 million, maybe $10 million plus over a 3 to 4 year period coming into the district. In Cali, $1.5 million, something like that, a little bit less. And I've shown the deadlines for what, when each of these pots needs to be spent. And over on the far right, how much we've spent at this point. And when there's a slash, that's district, then Cali, because there are some pots Cali gets, there are other pots Cali is not eligible for, being a charter school.
So Lois, is any of this money on this COVID relief funding, is any of that showing up in that multi-year already?
On the restricted side, not on the unrestricted side.
Okay, thank you.
And it's out of these funds that we were able to pay the one-time $1,500 payment to all of our employees. That was allowed out of the in-person instruction grant. That one at the very top is fairly flexible and allowed us to give that outside payment to our people, all the employees. So, any questions on that? Okay.
Not really a question, but I don't know if the general public knows about that agreement that was made, and maybe Superintendent Decker wants to mention that and acknowledge what was done and what we were able to do for our employees all across the district.
Sure, absolutely. So in negotiations, I mean, we've had ongoing negotiations and coming back to the table next year. But at the end of the year, we really wanted to acknowledge the amount of work that went into this school year. And I know that it's sometimes hard for the general public to know or realize how big a lift this school year was. And there were many people who spent inordinate hours trying to meet the needs of our students via distance learning, hybrid learning, I should say. And I think we wanted to acknowledge that, the hard work that was done. So we did agree to pay every employee, excepting me, $1,500 in recognition of kind of the hard work that was done. And that was a flat fee. Oftentimes, you should know that when districts settle for off-schedule dollars, which is what this is called, meaning it's one time. A lot of times it's just you do one or a 2%, and then you build it based on whatever the salary of that individual is. I will say that our labor partners really support the concept that we didn't want to have different amounts going to different people. We wanted to acknowledge that everybody, worked hard. And so it was a flat fee of $1,500, whether you made $15 an hour or you made $50 an hour.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. This slide looks intimidating. What it is we're required, ever since the governor established a rainy day fund, one of the regulations is that districts who have excess, and that is a word chosen by the state, as some people point out, there's no such thing as excess reserves. There's just healthy savings accounts. But as you know, the state requires us to have a minimum reserve of 3%. So this requirement says we have to, in a public setting, talk about what we have in our reserves in excess of that 3% and why we should be allowed to, what's our justification for those dollars. So, and we have to include what we have in Fund 17. That is considered part of our fund balance. And Fund 17 is where the district has put money. We haven't put any money in there since I was with since I've been with the district, but at one point, all one-time dollars were put into this fund, and it's meant to pay for post-employment benefits, other post-employment benefits, so retiree benefits. It's not nearly enough to pay. I mean, that probably would cover 2 years of benefits. So at this point, we pay for the benefits out of our ongoing general fund. So it's I can't remember the number. An actuary told us at one point how much we'd have to pay our benefits, and it was few $1 million, I think we'd have to have in that fund to be able to pay our the cost of our benefits every year. So for now, it sits there, it gains interest every year. So our fund balance, which is both unrestricted, excuse me, I'm trying to point for you, unrestricted and restricted, is the 14 million. We add the Fund 17 and we get 15.3 million. For 3% reserve required on the expenditures for 21-22 is 1.5 million. So we have a healthy excess of 13.7 million. Now, some of those things we can explain away pretty quickly. Fund 17, we can say we're reserving that for OPEB costs. That's a reasonable thing to do. With the board to set a policy, they want to see 5% reserve, so that's another $1 million. We've assigned money for technology replacement of $1 million. We have our lottery carryover, the 298,380. That's a set amount, what's left over in lottery. Our restricted money, that's 3.867. Those are all those restricted funds. Those have a purpose. We have a revolving account, an account of 6,000, leaving us with 6.8 million. And our justification for that is all of those unforeseen things that can happen to a school district, special education situations. We learned last year it was possible to have a student have a need that would cost us $500,000 to $750,000 a year. That uses up funds pretty quickly. Litigation, weather emergencies, state budget instability. And last year they had us thinking we were going to have a 10% revenue reduction. So those are some of the major reasons why we would want to have large, and we do have at this point, large reserves. And I'm sincerely hoping those reserves can remain. So any questions on that?
Can we clarify, so the reserve cap can be instituted if the state hits a certain metric?
There's certain metrics, yes.
And I can't remember if it was actually triggered, but I know there were some narrative that stated we may be hitting those metrics.
Yes.
Did we hit them or not? Do you know?
I have not heard it recently. I heard it, I think it was in January they talked about
Yeah.
it, but they did not talk about it at the May revise.
Okay.
And I think, and my understanding is as long as we can justify it, we're okay. Well, I take that back. I think there's some, what we would need to do is formalize some of this to actual budget commitments.
Yeah.
If there are particular things that the board felt strongly they wanted to make sure they had money to cover. And that is the end, unless you have any questions on what I presented or anything else that was in the board item. And I would also have the suggestion that this budget's coming back in 2 weeks for approval. If in that time and you have more of a chance to look it over and you have questions, please email them to Jeremy and he can pass them on to me and I can make that part of the presentation in 2 weeks if there are significant questions on what's in the budget.
I'd just like to thank you, Lois, for putting together the slides that kind of break it down into smaller pieces. In our packet, we received 16 slides of
I know.
very detailed graphs and charts and budget lines, and it's kind of overwhelming. I did look through a lot of it, but it's much easier to see it and hear it in person like this. So thank
Good.
you, and hopefully we don't have
You're very
any drastic
welcome.
changes to worry about.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's one of the downsides. Board Docs is a wonderful application, but somehow, and it's also the fact that I'm not in the office to take it and make it one document that I scan. So it's lots of pieces. So it is a bit overwhelming.
Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? So does this mean we get to see you in 2 more weeks again, Lois?
I think so.
There we go.
We'll see her in about 5 minutes for the public hearing.
Yes, we will.
All right, I'll get this down off the screen.
All right. Thank you very much. If there's no other comments, Melanie, did you have anything to say on this? Okay, very good. All righty. Thanks again, Lois. All right, we'll go to 6.1, public hearing for review of the 21-24 local control accountability plan. This will be presented by Lisa. So is this where, Lisa, is this where I'm supposed to say I'm opening the hearing? Okay,
Yes.
so I'm opening our hearing for section 6.1, the public hearing for 21-24 LCAP.
And designate the time, Rich, if you write it down, 7:53.
And we are open at 7:53 p.m. Windsor time.
So Jen, if you will monitor any public comment, if we receive none after a minute or so, then we will close.
I will.
Thank you.
If you don't mind me interrupting and talking about something else while we wait for a comment, I forgot to say it earlier when we were in a board report, but I would like to personally thank, and I know the other board members would probably agree, thank the administration of all of our schools. Brian Williams at the middle school, Sharon Ferrer at Cali, Steve Jorgensen along with Pete Sullivan, Amy Ziegler and Grace at the high school, and then Forrest Harper at North Bay Met for putting on some wonderful graduation ceremonies
Great.
to honor our graduates and promotees earlier this month. I thank them all individually, but I'd like to publicly thank them as well for the hard work that they did to make it special for our families and our students.
Well stated, Eric. I thought they did a great job.
They did. Thank you. All righty, it's been about a minute. Jen, any comments?
I did not.
Okay, so I'd like to, do we need to make a motion to close the hearing?
No, you just close it, just note the time, close the hearing, and then we'll move on to the next item.
All right, so closing this at 7:55. All righty, and so if there's no other comments or questions or what have you, we'll close 6.1 and we'll move on to 6.2. I'd like to open the public hearing for 6.2, where we can review the 21 to 22 budget and the reserve transparency disclosure, the Windsor Unified School District. And that is going to be opened at 7:55. And is there any questions, comments, or anything from the folks right here? And Jen, if you can monitor, see if anybody else has a public comment, that'd be great. And I want to take a few seconds right now while we're waiting and say, Lois, since you are not exactly going to be with us anymore, I'd sure like to extend an opportunity for you to come and visit us in a month or so when everybody can take their masks off in public and go and eat. And I think we'd love to be able to buy you a nice dinner on your way out. Maybe
I would love that, Rich.
we could double up and have Chris and you all together. I don't know, I'm thinking like some big fiesta kind of big something or other.
Yeah, Chris is going to be out of here soon, though. My goodness.
Does Chris have an actual leaving on a jet plane departure date?
Not till August.
Yeah,
Oh, man, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
I guess 2.
Let's wait a couple weeks so that way whatever we order, we don't have to cook it on the sidewalk. It's so hot outside. So, anyhow.
Okay. A minute has gone by and there are no public comments.
All right, very good. Well, I am going to close this public hearing at 7:57. Hearing no comments, and we'll be good with 6.2. We'll move on to 6.3, consideration of adoption of a resolution of resolution 2021-2024, elimination reduction of certain positions and the classified service and directing notification of classified employees. This will be put forward by Chris.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rich. I like that it mentions certain positions, and in this case, you never like to do layoffs. This is fairly limited, more limited than it probably looks, and I can walk you through the layoffs and sort of our strategy if you like.
I think you should, Chris.
Okay.
I should understand.
So there's 4 positions involved here. The first is instructional paraprofessional computers. And those are 2 3.75 positions, one at Maddie and one at Brooks. And they kind of oversee the computer labs. And because we are now a 1-to-1 computer district where every child has their own computer, it's a big deal. We no longer are going to be maintaining those computer labs. So those positions won't be needed. And this, go ahead, I'm sorry. Oh, never mind. Okay. The instructional paraprofessional PIP is the primary intervention program. And actually these 2 individuals, their positions are combined to include computers and PIP. And PIP is a primary intervention program. The reason we're no longer looking at the 2 hours at each campus for that program is that we've hired social emotional counselors instead, which is a much more robust approach to handling the social emotional needs that we're identifying. So that sort of encapsulates those first 2 positions, and it's 2 people. One of the positions happens to be vacant, so it only affects it affects 1 person. I shouldn't say only, because that's a person there. The next position is the school account clerk, and this is one that we reduced last year. And so this particular position is half-time at Brooks and half-time at Maddie. And the position's being eliminated. But what you don't see on the resolution here is that we're going to use some of the savings that we achieved in number 1 and 2, those 2 positions, to be able to put a secretary 3 at each of the campuses, which will again give a little bit more robust, or actually a lot more robust support for the leadership at those two campuses. And the school account clerk position is also vacant, so we're not impacting an individual in this case, but it's the position. And then finally, yard duty. At Brooks, there has been chronically about 5.25 or 5.25 hours of yard duty that hasn't been able to be filled. Those are tough to fill positions. They're kind of little snippets of time during the day, as you probably know. And what Mr. Decker and I have had conversations with Principal Zacconi, and she'd rather use those hours to hire a student advisor to have it creates a longer term position, more hours and would provide like more support for her work with children. So that's kind of what the layoffs are and kind of what the strategy is behind them. So if there's any questions, or Jeremy, if you want to add anything.
I think what I would really add is small, just that we're really trying to not change our budget greatly. We're just trying to use our positions in a different way and meet the needs of what the principals deem as a greater need. And so that's where this was born out of a conversation with Principal Zacconi and incoming Principal Yakic, and this was preferred over the other structure in the office.
Very, very good. Is there any questions amongst the board or anybody else? Jen, do we have any public comment on this section 6.3?
We do not.
Okay. This is a resolution, so I think we have to have a roll call vote. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You do.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion first or just a roll call vote? Eric?
I'll make a motion to approve and then we'll do a roll call.
Okay. I can second that motion.
Roll call. Vice President Carnation,
Yes.
Trustee Heights,
Yes?
Trustee Malinali. Trustee Adams,
Malinelli, you're muted, so she didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, yes.
and President Ahmad.
They're both absent. Okay, so that motion and resolution passes 3-0-2. All righty, we'll move on to item 6.4, consideration of contract with School Services of California to recruit for a CBO. I'd like to turn this over to Superintendent Decker.
Yeah, so as we all know, Lois has left, and she's been working kind of nights and weekends to assist us in completing the budget, closing things out. But we don't have a day-to-day CBO in the office. Most districts go with School Services to recruit a CBO. We tried to go at this ourselves and utilize EdJoin to attract a candidate. Unfortunately, we didn't find a candidate. I'll just put it that way. And so we started to really consider utilizing School Services. And I think what sold us is that they won't stop. Their contract doesn't stop until they place somebody. So if it takes 3, 4, 5 months, which hopefully obviously it doesn't, but they don't stop. So we pay a large sum. I mean, it's $21,000, guys, but CBO is an extremely important position in our district, in every district, but being the geographical lead for NCC, there's a level of complexity in our district that isn't found in most places, along with having a charter school. So we got to find somebody good. And I am the last person who wants to spend $21,000 to conduct a search, but I believe that it's in our best interest at this stage after us going at this ourselves for the past month and a half. So I'm asking you to approve the contract with School Services of California.
I'll make a motion that we does this need a motion, or you just are you getting our consent, or do you need a motion?
No, it has to be approved. We have to vote.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept this service.
I'll second that.
Discussion wise, Jerry, what are we doing? What tools are we going to give these folks when they're out soliciting? Because I know a lot of other schools are looking for CBOs. And
yep. Well, one of the things that you guys have actually approved in consent is a new salary schedule for CBO.
Got it.
So we have added steps to the CBO position. We've added 5 steps. And so that allows us to advertise for more experienced CBOs potentially. So instead of 7 steps, we have 12 now. We are also considering offering a signing bonus, which was recommended to us by School Services of California. It will help separate us from the pack. With our maximum salary, it'll be around $167,000 now. And in the comparisons of other districts, especially local ones, that will put us just above all of the open positions, which I think there are 5 right now in Sonoma County alone. So that would make us very competitive with our benefits package and a potential $10,000 signing bonus to be paid over 2 years. I think that positions us to find a quality candidate.
Okay.
So those are the tools, Rich. It's really funds.
Right. Well, no, I know. I just wanted to make sure. Hey, right now, anybody who's tried to find an employee, I don't care if it's from beginning anything to advanced everything. It is tough to get employees, and of all different skill levels. Right now, it's just a unique thing, and so when we lose somebody who's competent, and then you try and replace them, so you know, it's tough right now.
It's a tough market for CBOs.
Yeah, a lot of people are leaving the state, leaving everywhere. So it's we may have to. Well, we'll see how that works out, but we may have to look and see if there's some other tools available. Even I don't know what other things are, what other tools are being available to folks. Availed, I think is the word. Any questions, comments from anybody else?
We're not there for a couple of years, but I've been putting a little bug in my daughter's ear. She's a business major, and I said, hey, schools, it's a great place to do stuff, and you get the Christmas holiday off and spring break and all those good things a lot of times. And so we'll see if we get some younger people into the profession, because a lot of the CBOs have been here and done that and aren't joining the profession. They're looking for jobs in big firms, and schools need these valuable people. So
it's funny.
I'm ready for a vote when you ask for it, Rich.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I told my son, who just graduated with his degree in accounting, and he's now he's moving out here next month and going to go to San Jose to work for Ernst & Young. And I'm going like, and I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He goes, auditing. And I'm saying, hey, get into the school audit stuff. And I said, because they have to do it every year. There's a big old thing, and either that or CBO. And I just, like you said to your daughter, I think that's there's a good career, and it's a noble one as well. So anyhow, if there's other comments, we can go to a vote. Jen, this is not a resolution, is it?
No, it is not.
Okay, so we just do a simple vote.
So I think you had a first and a second, didn't you?
Yeah.
So
all those in favor?
I thought I was waiting for Jen. Sorry, another rookie mistake. Thanks, Eric. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So all those opposed? All those absent? So Jen, it would be 3-0-2. Thank you. All righty, now let's move on to 6.5, consideration of a contract with Total School Solutions to support the business services. So Jeremy, would you like to?
Sure. So we're lucky in that we have Lois closing out the books, but we don't have anybody to do certain things, requisitions, POs, day-to-day stuff. That's fallen to me. And what we're doing is we're going to contract with Total School Solutions for a not to exceed amount of 6,600. I think it's 6,600 or 6,500. Let me look. 6,600. And, in our initial negotiations with this, it was just an uncapped time, an hourly charge. And so we said, we're not really comfortable with that. We'd like to be able to control our costs a little bit more clearly. And so we asked for a daily charge or a half-day charge and a not to exceed amount. And that's what they gave us. And honestly, this is much lower. They're really trying to help us out. I feel this is lower than what they traditionally charge. And Total School Solutions is a company that a gentleman named Joe Pandolfo works for. And I had reached out to Joe some time ago for support. He's a previous CBO of I think 20 something years in Rincon Valley and other districts. And so he'll be the main individual supporting us, but he preferred to run it through his current company, Total School Solutions. So that's why we're contracting in this way.
I did have a question. I noticed that there was a fee plus travel time. Are we able to have Brad hook him up so he can work from his office or home? So
we don't even need Brad to do so. He's already got that capability.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure how that worked.
Yeah, and you know what? I think his preference would probably be to work from home more often. I would like a presence in the office. And so we discussed that, and he would only be coming in a couple days a week, potentially. You know, what's rough is Joe, will be on vacation until sometime in July. So he's available. So he won't even be in the office, Rich, until he's back from vacation. And if we don't find a CBO candidate with what you guys have just approved, Joe is going to become really crucial to our success. If we can hopefully find a candidate sooner rather than later, then we may not hardly use this contract at all.
Yeah, I understand that, you know, and I appreciate that they're helping us out and give us a good rate, but traveling from Fairfield to here, that's an hour each way.
Oh, no, he's the Santa Rosa resident. He's here.
Oh, okay. I saw Fairfield. I'm going like, man, a 4-hour day. I'm going half of that's going to be just checking out that wetland there between Vallejo and Petaluma.
No, he's local. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I feel better now.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Any questions from anybody else? Okay, so can we have a motion to accept 6.5, this contract with Total School Solutions?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Do I have a second? I'll make that second. And so if we can have a vote for all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All righty. All those opposed? All those that are absent. All right. The motion carries 3-0-2. All righty. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that we're going to miss Lois. Looking forward to getting somebody good. I'm glad we have somebody with a lot of experience that can help us bridge that gap. Thank you for thinking of this in advance and kind of working through Superintendent Decker. We'll move on to 6.6, consideration of new job descriptions, coordinator of child development programs, Superintendent Decker.
So alluded to this earlier, we've really been trying to think through how to generate revenue. Initially, our thought was really centered around preschool, but we realized that, especially with the governor talking about universal TK, that we should probably expand our focus. And we know that if we could provide services to families that meet the needs before school with childcare and after school with childcare, potentially homework clubs, tutoring, whatever it may be, we will stand out from many other districts. And so we have created this job description, coordinator of child development programs, to oversee our future preschool that we are hoping to develop and build, as well as after school programs for our students. So this is a position that in year one, we'll be doing a lot of planning. And we have talked about having them work with Mentor Me. We Foundation has been working hard with a group called Mentor Me to provide services to some of our Brooks students. And we think that it could be kind of like, think of a big buddy. I don't know how else to say it, but creating a buddy system for some of our younger students who are struggling. And we think that type of a program will be captioned under this job description. But for next year, there's gonna be a lot of planning. So we're gonna need to do a capital campaign in order to raise revenue, to build some of the facilities that we need to, I guess, realize our vision. But that's what this position is currently. And it's already posted, I should tell you, obviously pending approval of the board before we would make any hires.
That was the only concern I had, is that I saw this almost 2 weeks ago, came to us from HR or from personnel. I referred it to a colleague's spouse, and they're very excited and may apply, but I now see that we're approving it after it's already been out for 2 weeks.
Yes,
I
sir.
kind of like to clean that up in the future and make sure
Okay.
the board knows what's going on before we send something out, at least so that everybody's on board and knows what's going on. And then if it doesn't get approved, like if tonight, if we deny this, people that may be looking on it or going to EdJoin already or something may be disappointed that it's not available. So.
I understand. And I can own that, Eric. Was trying to just trying to get ahead so we could hire sooner rather than later. But I can own that, and I recognize it's not the normal way or the common way to do things, and so I can
Yeah, I
change that
understand.
practice.
It's not a huge issue, but it just could get uncomfortable if we were against it and didn't
Totally
pledge
get it.
well, and people were already working on putting together resumes and turning things in and stuff like that. So.
Totally understand.
But I'm in favor of it, so I'll let anybody else speak that chooses to.
I also am in favor of it. I think this is part of our strategy going forward. I agree with Eric though. I mean, this is the first time this has happened historically, not with you, but in the past, where we would get stuff after the fact or say, hey, board, we want you to approve this contract that we've already all agreed to and signed off and whatever. And I'm going, why do you need us if you're already,
I understand.
But so anyhow, it's just a good reminder. Sometimes things have to move fast though. And so I appreciate that too. What I like about it though, is that we're not sitting on our hands. We're moving and we're going forward and we're implementing a strategy. And what I love about this is that it's sending a signal to everybody in our school district. We can't just accept average. We have to be good. We have to be working. These kids, we have to be attracting them. We have to be making our school district something that people want to belong to. And we can't just say, they're going to show up, because no, they have options. They can go to other schools, because other schools, they're also having declining enrollment. So we want to be that's the special district that I know we all are. So anyhow, I appreciate the creativity to bring this forward, and I like it as well. Malinelli, you got anything on this one or?
No, I don't have any comments other than to say that I really like this idea of Mentor Me. So I just love that concept, and I hope it's something that we could look to the future to incorporate at each school, just because I think it's a fantastic idea. So having it at all schools, I think would be awesome.
And just to clarify that, this position will oversee, hopefully, programs at many of our schools. We still have to work out what that looks like fully, but that's the concept. They're the overseer.
Right. Yes, I would love to incorporate that into a long-term vision where we could look at having something like that at each school.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Jeremy, would this be considered a cabinet position, or would this be just a kind of in between the cabinet and a school site director?
It's a great question. I think that it's more similar to, well, it's kind of like a principal / cabinet position. They're a direct report to me, which usually is cabinet members, but also principals. So it's kind of somewhere in between, I guess.
Multifaceted.
Yeah. And that's, we went back and forth on calling it a coordinator versus director versus a million other different things. And we settled on coordinator in the end.
Okay. Any other questions, or Jen, any comments on, well, actually, we need to make a motion first.
The only other thing I would ask about, just for the general public who may be hearing about this for the first time, it's listed as coordinator certificated and then separately coordinator classified.
Yeah.
So does that depend upon credentialing and such, or is that
It
why you
does.
listed it that way? It's one position, but it could be hired two different ways, correct?
Yeah, we talked a lot about that. We didn't want, if you're thinking about preschool teachers, we didn't want to eliminate having a preschool teacher apply, which would be a classified position, but we also didn't want to eliminate, let's say, a kinder, first, second grade teacher or principal or somebody like that to apply who may already be in STRS. So it was actually Dr. Kainlake's idea, why don't we list this both ways, cast a wide net, and then, interview the candidates who rise to the top.
Yeah, that's what I expected. Thank you.
There is no public comment, Rich.
Thank you, Jen. No, I like the fact that we're casting a wider net. And I think that's one of our board goals that we have been trying to implement, to cast a wide net for everything. Because a lot of times certain people that are excellent in certain spots don't fit in a certain box initially, and yet they end up being excellent. So I'm glad that you guys are thinking like that as well. So can we have a motion to accept this coordinator position?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Great, thanks, Melanelli. Can I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great, thanks, Eric. And can I have a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All those absent? All right, passes 3-0-2. All righty, thank you. We'll move on to 6.7. Consideration of a new job description, coordinator of district communications.
Yep, and this again is part of our plan to hopefully increase enrollment, thus generating revenue, and really it's needed. So we are looking at a position that will manage our website, that will share the great stories that we know are in our district, share the great things that have been happening in our district, give us a better social media footprint, really just improve our communications. I think that we do the best we can with regard to communicating to our families, but we can always improve. And I think that this position will make a big difference in hopefully getting the word out about how great we are. And hopefully families will recognize and see how great we are and then want to come to our district in conjunction with the position that you just approved. If we are trying to expand enrollment for preschool or try to get the word out that, hey, we've got wraparound services for students from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. potentially, we need somebody that's going to advertise these things and cast a wide net for families all over Sonoma County who might be looking for what we have to offer. So I think this position is timely. Again, as I said earlier, when the budget talk was happening, it's a gamble. 10 students, if this position creates 10 students to enroll in the district, it pays for itself. Anything beyond that is an increase to our general fund. If it does not get 10 students, then this position's not paying for itself and probably wasn't a good decision. So again, I just want to be clear and transparent that there's no guarantee that this will help our district. I believe it will. I believe it's necessary. If anybody's used our website, they will know that it needs some updating and some work. And so that this would finally fall to this person. Jen does an admirable job of trying to keep that website updated. Brad does an admirable job. Everybody does, but it's an afterthought. It would be this person's duty.
So I just want to say that I'm very excited about this position because media is my area of expertise. So one thing that I really look forward to is possibly tying the work or the scope of work of this position back to the DLAC and ELAC goals of making a lot of information available in a multilingual format.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm very, very excited about that.
Too bad we can't hire you, Melanelli, because you're on the board. We can't let you work a second job with the district.
Well, you know what happens is I end up working for free.
Perfect. We love free.
Hey, great. You can work for free, and then that way we don't even have to be. It doesn't have to be an experiment. We can know it works. No, honestly, this is one of the things I'm very excited about. This is something that I thought Windsor should have been doing 10 years ago. I used to get these little cards because my kids played in all these different sports, and there were different organizations that would send us little cards and say, hey, why don't you come and go to school here? And I used to get really irritated. I'm going, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we letting people in our town and everywhere else know, say, hey, we're here. This is a wonderful place. And I used to get in trouble because I was too much of a Windsor rooter or booster or whatever you want to call it. So I got slapped once. But anyhow, for being too exuberant with people. But anyhow, and I was just talking about our academic programs too. So anyhow, I love the idea. I think that most people that are involved with Windsor and our school district think that it's a great spot, and we just need to let it out there a little bit more. And again, people might say, hey, if that person gets 10 people here, it covers the cost. That is true if you look at it from a 1 year standpoint. If this person gets 10 kids that are kindergartners and those kindergartners stay, that work that they did for 1 year, it pays for them for 12 years. And then if they continue, the exponential growth of that effort, it's huge. It's huge. But then just the programs that we're putting together right now, these are the things that are exciting. I think that they're going to bear great fruit. They may start off a little slow, but once people know that we're serious about, providing their kids with the best educational opportunity here in Windsor, we're going to do great. So I like this, and I like to make a motion that we accept this, and then we can keep talking about it. But
I'll second the motion, but I want to add a question, maybe for Chris, if he's ready to. There you are. Now, I know a lot of our offerings that we provide for hiring are done on EdJoin, but EdJoin's a very educational based. And if you're not a teacher, if you're not an administrator, you're not looking at EdJoin ever, maybe we need to go to LinkedIn. Maybe we need to reach out to Molinari, who has expertise in this kind of an area, to see associations that may be good to advertise with. Even if we have to pay a little bit to get in a magazine or to get on a website, EdJoin doesn't always work. We're trying to find coaches on EdJoin, and they don't look at EdJoin. They look at, the volleyball team or the football club or whatever. And so just a little suggestion there to not only use EdJoin in something like this.
No, I think that's a really good idea, a good suggestion. We do get kind of a little bit complacent sometimes because EdJoin is such a go-to for educators in California.
Yeah, it's great, but if you're not an educator, you don't know about it. So.
I know, yeah. On a positive note, we have had some remarkable applicants in there already, so we're kind of. But I think I think it's a good idea to maybe drop it on LinkedIn as well. Has
6.7 been advertised already as well?
Yes, I did the same thing. You already got me. I know I'm in trouble. I won't do it again.
Hey, well, I just wanted to see if you were trying to get all your stuff in one meeting.
That's it. I just wanted to get smacked once.
Okay.
I'm not going to smack you, but you'll buy dessert at that big dinner we have.
Fair enough.
So when does this position close? I guess if that's.
Yeah, that's the right term.
Is it open until filled?
No, I don't prefer to fly things that way. I think that candidates get complacent when you have open till filled. I like to have a due date. You know what it is, Chris?
I can always repost it too. I'm looking now. I'm trying to find it. Give me a second here.
I can never tell because it doesn't tell me. Well, here, yes, I can. It's the end of the month.
Use Indeed.
It's the end of the month.
Yeah. That's why I posted it early, because I wanted to try to get this hiring done early enough to engage in some of the work that we're doing.
So we got 2 more weeks. So, I guess we can't make a motion or whatever, but do we need to do anything to say, other than just say, hey, Chris, we would like to have this go into Indeed?
Oh, that's on us. Yeah, we just do that. No, you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do anything like that. And then that gives us 2 weeks. The good news about LinkedIn and those sites is people, they're looking at those every day. So, you're basically having to refresh it every couple of days because you get hit. So, but Eric, to I think that was really smart advice.
I come up with something good once in a while.
Oh no, you did good. You might even want to do the other one too. Well, no, you said that one. No, because that one's
we could.
Well, it's
we
not.
Could, but it would be a little different. Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt.
No, it could
maybe. But this one specifically, I think to Eric's point is really good because a lot of the people that do that kind of marketing are very creative, are not necessarily in the education world to start with.
True.
So, anyhow, so is there any other
motions already?
Actually, Ava, do you have any comments about this thing? You like the idea?
Yeah, I like the idea, especially for the communications, because I know that was a big thing, especially when we were going to hybrid model where students didn't know whether they were going in person or not, just like difficulties where students aren't checking their emails, parents aren't checking their emails. And I think finding a way to streamline all of that information is going to be really productive for the district.
Cool. If there's not any other comments or, Jen, any public comment?
No, there is not.
Okay, great. Then let's go ahead. I made a motion. Eric seconded it. Can all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, and 2 are absent. So Jen, that would be 3-0-2. All right, very good. I'm excited about that one, especially. Alrighty, we're gonna move to 7.1, future school board agenda items. Is there anything that anybody would like to add on this?
Maybe just to notice that we will be meeting again, what is it, the 29th?
July.
To finalize our LCAP
Oh,
and our budget.
yes.
And then we have an all-day July retreat planned. Do we have a traditional July meeting? I don't remember.
No, we do
No
not.
meeting in July, no. So,
No. Okay, so that, and what was, that was on the, yeah, the 29th. Okay, I was just making sure. I was like, wait a minute, am I on out of town? Nope, we're good. All right, very good. 8.1, oh, meeting adjournment. Actually, time out. Because we have 9, we have approval of minutes. This is something, is
that's
that,
for today, so we do that next time.
got it. So that's not, we're not doing this tonight.
No.
We don't have minutes yet, no.
No.
Well, I know, that's why I was going like, she was trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
I didn't mean to confuse you, Rich. It's just, it's part of the agenda, the way we keep the minutes on the agenda updated. Sorry.
It's okay. It's not that hard to confuse me. It's pretty good. So anyhow, all right, well then I'm just gonna look for a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight. Actually, do we have to, could Ava be the person that makes the motion to adjourn us? I don't know if you can. She's nodding yes.
Well, hey, if
The
Ava
student
knows.
board member has motioning powers.
Whoa, my goodness. Well then, Ava, I would like to extend this opportunity for you to use those motioning powers of yours.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Absent. That would be, what would that be? 3-0-2-1.
Yeah, we need to remind ourselves to allow that provisional vote for Ava. We didn't do that tonight.
I'm
Sorry about that,
sorry.
Ava. But
Hey.
good job tonight, Rich. You hosted your first
I'm-
meeting. It wasn't so bad after all. Good job. You did a good job.
You kidding me? I've wore all the hair off my knees. I've been nervous the whole night. And I didn't say a bad word. Yeah, good night, everybody.
Okay,